Picture this. I'm 3 months pregnant with triplets. My husband brings his 23-year-old girlfriend to our house to pack his things. He laughs when I beg him to stay. That same week, I inherited $200 million. I never told him. And that's where this story gets interesting. Before I tell you how this man went from laughing in my face to begging at my doorstep, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Because this story has more twists than a roller coaster. And trust me, you don't want to miss a single second. This is about power, patience, and the sweetest karma you've ever heard. Let's dive in. My name is Nicole, and 8 years ago, I thought I had found my forever. I met Derek in college, back when we were both broke students with big dreams. He was charming, ambitious, and he made me laugh when life got hard. I came from nothing. My mama cleaned houses, my daddy drove trucks, and every penny I had for college came from scholarships and night shifts at the campus library. Derek's family had money, not rich, but comfortable, and they made sure I knew the difference. His mother would smile at me across the dinner table and ask things like, "So Nicole, what does your family do?" in that tone that already knew the answer and had judged it. But Derek was different back then, or at least I thought he was. We built our life together from the ground up. I worked my way into corporate consulting, long hours and tough clients, but the money was good. Derek went into real estate development, riding the highs and lows of the market. We bought a beautiful house in a nice neighborhood, the kind of place I used to dream about as a little girl, sharing a bedroom with 2 sisters. We had 2 cars, we took vacations, we looked like we were winning at life. From the outside, we were the perfect couple. But underneath all that perfection, cracks were forming that I refused to see. Derek's business was inconsistent. Some months he'd close big deals, other months nothing. I found myself covering more and more of our bills, and I never complained because that's what partners do, right? You support each other. When he'd come home frustrated, I'd rub his shoulders and tell him things would get better. When his deals fell through, I'd reassure him that I believed in him. I was the cheerleader, the supporter, the woman who held everything together while he figured himself out. The hardest part of our marriage, though, wasn't the money. It was the baby that wouldn't come. For 3 years, we tried. 3 years of negative pregnancy tests, of fertility treatments that drained our bank account and my hope, of watching everyone around us get pregnant while I stayed empty. I cried in bathroom stalls at work when another coworker announced their pregnancy. I avoided baby showers because I couldn't handle the pain. And through it all, Derek seemed supportive. He'd hold me when I cried, tell me we'd keep trying, that it would happen for us. But somewhere in that 3rd year, he changed. He became distant, irritable, always on his phone. He'd come home later and later, claiming work dinners and networking events. He password protected his phone when he never had before. And the affection, those small touches, the kisses goodbye in the morning, the way he used to pull me close at night, all of it faded until we were like roommates who occasionally made awkward small talk over dinner. I told myself he was stressed about work. I told myself the fertility struggles were hard on him too. I made every excuse in the book because I didn't want to face the truth that was probably already written on the wall. Then one Tuesday morning, everything changed. I woke up feeling nauseous, and something told me to take a test. I had a box of them under the sink, relics from years of disappointment, and I almost didn't bother, but I did. And 2 minutes later, I was staring at 2 pink lines. I was pregnant. After 3 years of trying, of hoping, of praying, I was finally pregnant. I cried on that bathroom floor for 20 minutes, overwhelmed with joy and relief and disbelief, all mixed together. I wanted to run and tell Derek immediately, but he'd already left for work. So I decided to wait, to plan something special. This was the moment we'd been waiting for, and I wanted it to be perfect. I went to my first doctor's appointment alone, because Derek had a meeting he couldn't miss. I sat in that waiting room, nervous and excited, imagining how I'd tell him. Maybe I'd buy a little pair of baby shoes, or wrap up the ultrasound picture with a bow. But when the doctor did the ultrasound and got really quiet, studying the screen with a concentrated expression, my heart started racing for a different reason. "Is everything okay?" I asked, my voice shaking. The doctor turned to me with a smile I'll never forget. "More than okay. Nicole, you're not having one baby. You're having 3. Triplets." The room spun. 3 babies. 3. After 3 years of nothing, my body decided to give me 3 at once. I laughed and cried at the same time, overwhelmed and terrified, and so incredibly grateful. I drove home in a daze, my hand on my belly, talking to the 3 little lives growing inside me. "Your daddy is going to lose his mind," I whispered. In the best way, I stopped at the store and bought 3 tiny onesies, each with a number on it, 1, 2, 3. I planned a romantic dinner at home, his favorite meal, candles, the works. I arranged the onesies on the table in a row, my phone ready to capture his reaction. And then I waited and waited. Derek texted around 7. "Working late? Don't wait up." I stared at that text, the candles burning down, the food getting cold, and something inside me cracked. I ate alone, tears dripping into my plate, those 3 little onesies staring at me like a joke I didn't understand yet. I fell asleep on the couch, waiting for him, and when I woke up, it was 2 in the morning, and I heard his key in the door. He stumbled in, and I sat up, groggy but hopeful. Maybe now we could talk. Maybe now I could finally tell him. But when I said, "Derek, we need to talk. You've been so distant lately," he exploded. "I can't do this anymore, Nicole." His voice was loud in the quiet house, harsh and cold. "I can't keep pretending." My heart stopped. "Pretending what?" "Baby, what's wrong? Whatever it is, we can fix it." "No, we can't." He ran his hands through his hair, wouldn't look at me. "I'm not happy. I haven't been happy for a long time. And I need to be honest with myself. With you." I stood up, my legs shaking. "Derek, please, I have something important to tell you. Something that might change. Nothing you say is going to change my mind." He finally looked at me, and his eyes were empty, like he was looking at a stranger. "I'm moving out. I'll come get my things this weekend." He walked to our bedroom, grabbed a pillow and blanket, and slept on the couch while I stood there in shock, my hand unconsciously moving to my stomach, where our 3 babies were growing. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. I walked to our bedroom like a zombie and lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand how my life had just fallen apart in the span of 5 minutes. That weekend came too fast. I thought maybe he'd cooled down. Maybe we could talk rationally. Maybe when I told him about the babies, everything would change. I heard the doorbell ring. The doorbell, like he was a guest, instead of the man who'd lived here for 6 years. And I ran to open it, still hoping, still believing we could fix this. Derek stood there, and next to him, with her hand casually resting on his arm, was a girl who looked barely old enough to drink. She was young, blonde, wearing designer clothes that probably cost more than our mortgage payment. She looked me up and down with this little smirk, and I felt something inside me die. "This is Brittany," Derek said casually, like he was introducing a colleague. "She's helping me pack." I couldn't breathe. This girl, this child, was standing on my doorstep, in front of the house I helped pay for, looking at me like I was the inconvenience. Derek walked past me into our home, my home, like nothing was wrong, like he hadn't just brought his mistress to meet his wife. Brittany followed, her heels clicking on my hardwood floors, and I just stood there with the door open, frozen. I finally found my legs and followed them to our bedroom. Derek was pulling clothes from the closet, while Brittany sat on our bed, scrolling through her phone like she was bored. I watched him pack for a minute, trying to find words, any words, for what I was witnessing. "How long?" I finally asked, my voice barely a whisper. Derek didn't even pause. "Does it matter?" "Yes, it matters to me." He sighed like I was annoying him. 6 months. "Are you happy now?" 6 months. While I was having fertility treatments, crying myself to sleep over negative pregnancy tests, believing we were in this together. He was with her. I felt like I was going to be sick. Derek, please. I hated how desperate I sounded, but I had to try. We can work through this. We can go to counseling. I have something important to tell you. He turned to me, and then he did something I'll never forget. He laughed, actually laughed at me. And Brittany giggled from the bed, like we were all sharing some private joke. Work through this? Nicole, look at yourself. Look at her. It's over. It's been over. I felt tears streaming down my face. I'm pregnant, Derek? 3 months pregnant. He stopped packing. Turned around slowly. For a second, I thought I saw something flicker in his eyes. Surprise. Maybe regret. But then his face went cold again. Colder than I'd ever seen it. That's not my problem anymore. Those words hit me like a physical blow. Brittany's eyes widened, and even she looked a little uncomfortable. But Derek just went back to packing, like he'd commented on the weather. Get a lawyer. We're done here. He zipped up his suitcase and headed for the door. Brittany hopped off the bed and followed him, throwing me one last look over her shoulder, pity mixed with victory. Babe, hurry up, she whined as they reached the bedroom door. We have dinner reservations. And they left, just like that. I heard the front door close, heard his car start, and then silence. Complete silence. I collapsed on the bedroom floor, hugging my knees to my chest, trying not to think about the 3 babies inside me who would grow up without a father. Trying not to think about how stupid I'd been, how blind, how completely and utterly destroyed I felt. The next 3 days were the darkest of my life. I called in sick to work, couldn't eat, could barely get out of bed. The morning sickness was hitting hard now, but I almost welcomed it. It was something physical to focus on, instead of the emotional agony. Friends called. I didn't answer. My mama called. I lied and said everything was fine. I was alone in that big house, with memories in every corner, and I wanted to disappear. On the 4th day, there was a knock at the door. I almost didn't answer, but they knocked again, persistent. I dragged myself downstairs and found a delivery man with a certified letter, thick envelope, official looking. My hands shook as I signed for it. I sat on the couch and stared at it for 10 minutes before opening it. Sure, it was divorce papers already. Derek was efficient, if nothing else. But it wasn't from Derek. It was from Henderson and Associates law firm. And it was regarding the estate of Mrs. Dorothy Jean Thompson, my grandmother, my daddy's mama, the woman who raised him when his own mama passed young, the woman who used to sneak me candy when I was little and tell me I was destined for great things. My heart sank as I read that she'd passed away 2 weeks ago. Peacefully in her sleep, the letter said. There had been a small funeral already, per her wishes, private, just a few close friends. I hadn't even known. Tears filled my eyes for a different reason now. I'd lost my grandmother and didn't even get to say goodbye. But the letter continued. She'd left her estate to me, all of it. I assumed she meant her little house, maybe some savings. Grandma Dorothy lived simply, in the same small house, for 40 years, drove the same car for 20. I figured maybe there'd be $50,000, enough to help with the babies. A blessing, in my darkest moment. Then I saw the numbers. Primary residence valued at $2.3 million. Investment portfolio, $87 million. Business holdings, $96 million. Additional assets and accounts, bringing the total estate value to approximately $200 million after taxes and debts. I read it 3 times, then 4. The numbers didn't change. $200 million. My grandmother, my sweet, humble grandmother, who wore the same dress to church every Sunday and clipped coupons from the newspaper, was worth $200 million. And she'd left it all to me. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely hold the paper. There was a personal note attached in her handwriting, shaky but clear. My dearest Nicole, I lived simply because money was never what mattered. But I invested wisely so that one day, someone I loved could have choices I never had. You never asked me for anything, baby girl. You worked for everything you have. That's why you get everything I have. You're going to be just fine, better than fine. You're going to soar. Love always, Grandma Dorothy. I sat there for an hour, maybe more, just holding that letter, crying for my grandmother, for the secret life she'd lived, for the gift she'd given me. And slowly, something shifted inside me. The grief was still there, the heartbreak over Derek was still raw, but underneath it all, something new was growing. Not anger, not bitterness. Something quieter, but stronger. Power. I called the law firm and spoke to the attorney handling the estate. He confirmed everything. My grandmother had been a venture capitalist, one of the first Black women to break into Silicon Valley, investing in the 1980s. She'd backed the right companies early and quietly built an empire while living like she had nothing. She was remarkable, the attorney said, and she wanted you to have it all because, in her words, Nicole has the same spirit I had. She's going to change the world. After I hung up, I sat in that silent house and made a decision. Derek wanted out. He'd made that clear in the cruelest way possible. He'd brought another woman to my home, laughed when I begged him to stay, told me my pregnancy wasn't his problem. Fine. I'd give him exactly what he wanted. I'd let him walk away thinking he'd won, thinking I was broke and desperate and destroyed. And I would never, ever tell him about the $200 million. When Derek's lawyer contacted me about the divorce, I hired my own attorney, the best in the city, paid for quietly, with my new accounts. My lawyer was confused when I instructed her not to fight for anything. You're entitled to half of all marital assets, she said. The house alone, let him have it, I said calmly. All of it, the house, his business, everything. I just want out. But you're pregnant, you should at least fight for. I don't need to fight for anything. Just make it fast. Derek was thrilled with my surrender. He probably thought I was too broken to think straight, too desperate to fight. He took the house we'd bought together, took most of our shared assets, and left me with $30,000 in my car. To him, I'm sure it felt like he'd gotten away clean. The papers were signed within 2 weeks. I played my part perfectly. I told coworkers I was moving in with family to save money. I quit my consulting job, and Derek heard about it through mutual friends. She's falling apart, he apparently told people. I feel bad. But I had to do what was right for me. I let him believe it. Let everyone believe it. Meanwhile, I moved into a luxury penthouse across town, purchased under an LLC, so there was no public record tied to my name. I hired the best doctors in the state for my high-risk triplet pregnancy, private care, everything I needed and wanted. I stayed off social media completely. No photos, no updates, no trace of my new life. To the world that knew me before, I'd disappeared. And in a way, I had. The old Nicole, who made herself small to make Derek comfortable, who apologized for taking up space, who believed love meant sacrifice, she was gone. The woman growing 3 babies and building an empire in silence was someone new entirely. I spent those months taking care of myself in ways I never had before. Prenatal yoga with private instructors, nutritionists planning every meal, regular massage therapy for the aches and pains of carrying 3 babies. And I studied. I met with financial advisors and learned how to manage the wealth I'd inherited. I invested wisely. Real estate, index funds, stable growth. I started the Dorothy Thompson Foundation, named after my grandmother, with a mission to support single mothers and their children. It operated quietly at first, no press releases, no publicity, just real help for women who needed it. At 36 weeks, I went into labor. The babies came via C-section, all healthy, all perfect. 2 girls and a boy, Kennedy, London, and Christopher. I held them in that hospital room, exhausted and overwhelmed, and more in love than I'd ever been in my life. My real friends were there, my family was there, but there was one person notably absent. Their father had no idea they'd even been born. The months after the triplets arrived were hard in ways money couldn't fix. 3 babies meant 3 times the crying, 3 times the feeding, 3 times the sleepless nights. But I had help. a wonderful nanny, a night nurse, a support system I could afford because of Grandma Dorothy's gift. And more than that, I had purpose. Every time I looked at Kennedy, London, and Christopher, I knew I'd made the right choice. They deserved a mother who was whole, who was strong, who could show them what it meant to value yourself. Derek's life, I would learn later, was going differently. His real estate business started struggling. The market shifted, and his risky investments stopped paying off. Brittany, it turned out, was expensive. Designer bags, luxury vacations, expensive restaurants. She had a lifestyle she expected him to maintain. And when the money got tight, she got mean. They fought constantly. She'd threatened to leave, he'd scrambled to keep her happy, and the cycle would repeat. He aged 5 years and 6 months. Then Brittany's true colors showed completely. When Derek's biggest deal fell through, and he lost $200,000 of his own money, she was done. She called him broke, told him she'd wasted her youth on him, and moved out within a week. Derek saw her on social media, a month later, already with someone new. Older, richer, more stable. Everything he'd destroyed his marriage for, gone in an instant. Meanwhile, the babies were 6 months old when Derek's world and mine collided again. His mother, who I'd actually always liked despite her subtle digs, ran into me at the Plaza, the most expensive restaurant in the city. I was there for a lunch meeting with foundation board members, the Triplets with their nanny at home. I was wearing a designer dress, my hair done, looking and feeling better than I had in years. Derek's mother stopped dead when she saw me. "Nicole? Oh my God, you look amazing." We chatted politely for a few minutes, and I could see her taking in everything. The expensive clothes, the confident way I carried myself, the business portfolio on the table. She asked how I was doing, and I said simply, "I'm doing really well. Better than ever, actually." I knew she'd called Derek the second I left, and she did. Derek apparently couldn't believe it. He started asking questions, digging around, trying to figure out how his ex-wife, who he'd left desperate and broke, was now clearly thriving. Through mutual friends, through social media stalking, through whatever means he could, he started piecing together the truth. The foundation I'd started, the properties I owned, and finally, the inheritance that had happened right around the time he left. $200 million, that's what he'd walked away from. That's what his pride and his mistress and his complete disrespect had cost him. But worse than the money, 3 children, his children, triplets he knew nothing about because he'd told me my pregnancy wasn't his problem. I knew he'd figured it out when he showed up at my building. The doorman called up, and I almost told him to send Derek away. But something in me wanted this moment, needed it, maybe. I told the doorman to send him to the lobby, and I made him wait 20 minutes before I went down. When the elevator doors opened, there he was. Derek looked terrible. He'd lost weight, but not in a good way. He looked gaunt, tired, older. His clothes were rumpled, his eyes were bloodshot, and when he saw me, I watched his face crumble. "Nicole." My name came out like a prayer. I stepped out of the elevator, kept my distance. "What do you want, Derek?" He stumbled over his words, clearly unprepared, despite probably rehearsing this moment in his head. "I heard, someone told me you had babies, 3 babies." "I did. Kennedy, London, and Christopher. They're 6 months old now." "Are they?" He couldn't even finish the question. "Yours?" "Yes. Triplets. Remember when I tried to tell you I was pregnant and you said it wasn't your problem?" I kept my voice even, emotionless. "Well, I solved the problem myself. Why didn't you tell me? After they were born, why didn't you?" "Tell you," I almost laughed. "Derek, you brought your girlfriend to my house while I was carrying your children. You laughed when I begged you to stay. You told me my pregnancy wasn't your problem. Why would I tell you anything after that?" He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I used to find endearing. Now it just looked pathetic. "Nicole, I made a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life. Brittany's gone. The business is failing. I've lost everything. And you want what? Sympathy?" I want to make this right. I want to be a father to those kids. I want us to try again. For their sake. Now I did laugh. A cold sound even I didn't recognize. For their sake. Or because you found out about the money. His face went red. I don't care about the money. Liar. I pulled an envelope from my purse. One I'd prepared, knowing this day might come. This is a paternity test confirmation and a child support calculation. My lawyer will contact yours about a visitation schedule. Child support. Nicole, I barely have. That's not my concern. You have 3 children. The state determines what you owe, based on your income, not mine. You'll pay what you're ordered to pay. You don't need my money. You inherited millions. You were already rich when I left you, weren't you? His voice was rising now, desperate and angry. You let me walk away like an idiot while you were sitting on a fortune. I was always rich, Derek. My voice was quiet, but it cut through his noise like a knife. Rich in character, in strength, in knowing my worth. The money just made it more obvious. You chose to leave. You chose Brittany over your pregnant wife. I didn't make you do anything. I just didn't stop you. So this is revenge? You're going to keep my kids from me to punish me? Revenge? I stared at him. This man I'd once loved, who now looked like a stranger. Derek, I don't think about you enough to want revenge. You'll have supervised visitation once a month. The kids deserve to know their biological father, even if you're disappointing. You'll pay your support. You'll be in their lives in whatever small way the court allows. But you and me, that story ended the day you disrespected me in my own home. I turned toward the elevator, done with this conversation, done with him. Nicole, please, I looked back one last time. I hope she was worth it, Derek. I really do. Because you gave up everything that mattered for someone who didn't even want you when the money ran out. You didn't just lose me, you lost yourself. And that's a punishment I never had to give you. The elevator doors closed on his face, and I never looked back. A year has passed since that conversation. My life now is full in ways I never imagined. Kennedy, London, and Christopher are walking, babbling, filling my days with chaos and joy. The foundation has helped over 500 single mothers get back on their feet. I've been featured in business magazines, always declining to discuss my personal life. Derek has his monthly visits, always supervised, always awkward. He pays his child support on time because he has no choice. The kids are too young to understand who he is, and I don't know if they ever really will. Brittany married a tech millionaire and lives in a mansion now. I saw her Instagram once. She looks happy, or at least wealthy. Derek lives in a small apartment, works for someone else's real estate firm. And from what I hear, he's miserable. He sees photos of the triplets that my family posts online. Beautiful kids he barely knows. Living a life he could have been part of if he'd just been a better man. People ask me sometimes if I feel bad for him, if I ever wanted revenge, if keeping that inheritance secret was cruel. And I tell them the truth. I didn't need revenge. I needed freedom. Derek thought money would make him happy, thought youth and beauty were more valuable than loyalty and love. He was wrong. And by the time he figured it out, I was already gone. The inheritance wasn't revenge money. It was freedom money. Freedom to choose myself, to build the life I deserved, to show my children what strength looks like. Derek lost me the moment he disrespected me. The money just made it easier to walk away with my head held high. I'm still single, still focused on my babies and my work. I'm open to love again someday, but I'm not searching for it. I learned to love myself first, and that's a lesson I'll teach Kennedy, London, and Christopher as they grow. Your worth isn't determined by who stays or who leaves. It's determined by how you value yourself when everything falls apart. Derek texts sometimes, late at night, asking if we can talk about getting back together. I never respond. That chapter is closed. The book returned to the library. The story over. I'm not bitter anymore. I'm not angry. I'm just free. And that freedom is worth more than $200 million. It's worth everything. So that's my story. The man who laughed when I begged him to stay now begs me for another chance. And honestly, I don't feel victorious. I just feel free. If this story taught you anything, let it be this: your value doesn't decrease when someone can't see your worth. And sometimes, the best thing someone can do is walk away and let you become who you were always meant to be. If you made it this far, drop a comment and tell me, would you have told him about the money, or would you have stayed silent like I did? And if you're going through something similar right now, betrayal, heartbreak, feeling underestimated, I want you to know your comeback is coming. Subscribe to this channel because every single week I bring you real stories about real people who refuse to stay down. Hit that notification bell so you never miss the next one. Remember, the best revenge isn't hurting them back. It's becoming so unbothered, so successful, so at peace, that they become irrelevant. Now go out there and live your life like you're worth $200 million. Because you are. I'll see you in the next one.